So, Nick, speaking of this upcoming rematch, Ruiz-Joshua, so a couple things were pretty clear to me in the first fight. One of those being that in 7 rounds, it was pretty obvious who the better boxer was. It was Andy Ruiz.
Without a
Outboxed
doubt.
him. I mean, Joshua landed that one clean shot, which put Ruiz down, but I'd say give or take pretty much the entirety of the rest of the fight, Ruiz demonstrated superior boxing. So, I don't know. I'm kind of trying to figure out, one, why Joshua's team wanted this rematch so quickly, and then two, your opinion on, do you think that there was a lot of ground that Joshua had to make up between then in summer and now December 7th, the rematch, which is only, 5-6 months? My question to you is, do you think that's enough time to make that ground up? And then on top of that, Andy Ruiz, from the videos I've seen, has presumably gotten better since then as well. So he's got to make up the ground that he was missing in the first fight and then tack on top of that the improvements that Ruiz and changes that Ruiz has made. Do you think there's enough time between now and when the last fight took place for that to happen?
Long story short, no. There's no way a professional boxer can surpass another professional boxer that's training at the exact same rate that he's training at. He has the jump on Joshua, and it's clear because we saw that in the first fight. And it looked like he was years and leaps and bounds ahead of Joshua. So I don't see how there's any way he can come outbox Ruiz. I do see there's ways he can win the fight. He can land that single shot, that one-punch knockout that he's got. But, that the whole outboxing is going to go to one guy, and that's Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz showed us that he's the superior boxer. I would put him skill-wise, boxing-wise, over Deontay Wilder, maybe even Luis Ortiz. The only person I see actually boxing better than him these days is Tyson Fury, in the heavyweight division, of course.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I agree with that largely. I think Ruiz is one of the most skillful, pure boxers in the heavyweight division. And these videos that I've seen come out recently, he looks good. He looks trim. This whole notion that he's going to come in unprepared and undisciplined, I don't know where that came from or who sort of started that rumor mill, but I said, look, this is a guy that just shocked the world, changed his life forever, and now has the opportunity to just launch off into the stratosphere. Because, if he beats Joshua again, he's past Joshua. He's moved past Joshua. He's collected tens of millions of dollars, and he's well on his way to superstardom. And pretty much he can call his own shots at that point. He got all the belts but the WBC belt.
Right.
So he could make that super fight with Wilder right off the rip, and that's presuming that Wilder gets past Fury in February. He could wait to see how that goes. He could take on another top contender. He could go avenge his loss against Parker. But one thing's for sure is anything that he does after presumably a second win against Joshua, the sky's the limit. I'm surprised really that Joshua's camp wanted to jump in this fight so quick. And I understand that it's okay, all the belts got taken from him. Do we really want to go take a contender fight and try to work our way back up the rankings, so to speak? So I get it from that standpoint, but I don't know, man. I just feel like there should have been one fight in between there. Let the whole situation kind of breathe and air out and give Joshua time to really focus on his boxing skill, because clearly he was the less skillful of the two.
If there's anything Andy Ruiz deserves out of all of this, out of what we've seen from him and what we're going to see in the next fight, it's credit. He deserves credit amongst everybody, all the boxing world. One thing that I'm not the biggest fan of is how DAZN is painting the picture of Joshua Ruiz 1. They do a lot of good things for the sport, and combat sports fans should appreciate everything that they're doing. But, you go watch the 30-minute show that they put out on Ruiz Joshua 2, and it's, in my opinion, it's a little ridiculous how they went and found people like Sylvester Stallone, Dolph Lundgren, Tracy Morgan, Michael Strahan to analyze and break down this boxing match. Now, don't get me wrong; those guys are masters at what they do.
2 fake boxers and a football player.
Yeah, and an actor who just wrecked his Bugatti. Now, those guys. Yeah, it's good to bring them on to appeal to the masses, and if you put Sylvester Stallone's name on it as a producer, it's going to get some big numbers and stuff. But you literally had these guys breaking down the fight as if they knew anything about it, and you see people like Michael Strahan going, "Oh well, You know, you see Joshua come out and he's ripped to the bone. He's got 6-pack and he looks like a world champion. And you see Andy Ruiz come out. He looks like he just wiped Cheeto dust off his chest and just decided he'd take the fight for the payday. And that's the first sign of somebody not knowing what boxing's all about. The looks have nothing to do with it. And in fact, a lot of times people who carry that much muscle can't actually hold and don't have the stamina to make it through a 12-round fight for a title. Especially
Absolutely.
when they're fighting somebody with 100-plus wins in amateur boxing and close to 30 wins or whatever Ruiz's record is in professional boxing. I mean, the guy's not a slouch.
Absolutely not. I think it's going to be interesting. And I think Joshua's camp may, after the dust settles on this second one, kind of look at themselves and think, man, what the hell just happened? We probably should have let that one breathe a little bit longer. I don't know, man. I got Ruiz. I think Andy, I just don't think from prior experience and knowledge of boxing, of the art of the sweet science, training it myself, knowing how difficult it is to make improvements. Like it's like that 1% rule. If you can just get 1% better every day, at the end of 10 years, you can earn your black belt in jiu-jitsu, or you can, win you fill in the blank. But 6 months is just simply not enough time to make up the ground that I saw needed to be made up in that first fight, and then tack on that the improvements Ruiz made. Man, I think Andy Ruiz might have a second shining moment on December 7th.
I totally agree.